What is up, guys? Delboy here. Just going to bring you a preview video for another one of the World Boxing Super Series fights. This fight taking place at Super Middleweight, and it is between Callum Smith and Erik Skoglund. This fight has actually already got a date. It is going down on the 16th of September, and it's going to take place in Liverpool, which is Callum Smith's hometown. So he's got hometown advantage in his first fight. And Erik Skoglund is a guy, when he was announced in this tournament, not many people were that excited, you know. A lot of people were a little bit underwhelmed, you know. People weren't that impressed. And I just wanted to talk about this fight. I have had a look at Erik Skoglund, and I think at light heavyweight, he was a solid European level fighter. He wasn't bad by any means. You know, he had relatively good hand speed at light heavyweight. You know, he puts his shots together relatively well. He's got a nice uppercut that he can throw behind his jab or right hand. He's got the typical sort of European style in a sense where he's upright and he throws that jab, but he's a little bit more creative with his combinations than most. You know, he's not like the total stereotypical European fighter, where it's just a jab and a right hand. He does mix it up a little bit. He does go to the body. He has got a nice right uppercut, like I said. He's a little bit more... He's not quite as one-dimensional as some of those type of fighters, but he does still have that element about him. And yeah, he's not a bad fighter. But the fight with Callum Smith, I mean, firstly, Erik Skoglund has only really fought at light heavyweight before this, you know. He's never really been a super middleweight. So, for the first time in a big fight, he's got to make super middleweight when his body has been used to making light heavyweight since, 2010? So yeah, making light heavyweight's the first thing you got to ask. Is it going to be too much for him? Although Callum Smith is a bigger guy than Erik Skoglund, he's 6'3", I believe, and Skoglund is 6'1". Skoglund's body is used to making light heavyweight. Callum Smith, although he's taller, he is used to making super middleweight. He knows how to get down to it. He's got experience getting down to that weight. He knows what it feels like. So the first thing is, can Skoglund make that weight healthily? And will it affect his game? That's one thing you've got to realise and think about. Having said that, playing devil's advocate, maybe super middleweight is a good move for him. You know, maybe his power is more apparent at super middleweight. Maybe that's the weight he should have been fighting at, you know. Maybe his strength that he's used at light heavyweight, you know, he's used to fighting at light heavyweight, so when he comes down a weight, maybe he's stronger at that weight. Maybe the guys at super middleweight find him quite strong because of his experience at light heavyweight. Because he's still only 26. He's not like Jürgen Bremer, who's also in this tournament coming down from light heavyweight. Jürgen Bremer's 38. Skoglund is only 26. So maybe it is in his body to make super middleweight, you know. Maybe he can do it quite healthily. So maybe the weight isn't going to be an issue, but you've got to consider it either way. Stylistically, though, I think it's an interesting fight. I think Erik Skoglund, although he's quite unknown, I think he's got some things that will trouble Callum Smith. Firstly, to me, Callum Smith is a guy who is quite upright. You know, he doesn't move his head. And Skoglund is a bit similar, but I have seen him slip and slide in fights. You know, he's not quite as upright as Callum Smith. And Skoglund likes to throw his jab with a quick right hand behind it. I think Callum Smith is definitely open for a jab and a right hand behind it. You know, he's going to get caught with straight punches because he doesn't move his head. We've seen in a lot of fights where Callum Smith just stands upright and he does eat quite a few jabs. I recall all the way back in like 2014, he fought Tobias Webb, and it was only one round, but he was getting caught by a hell of a lot of jabs in that fight. And other fights, you know, his defensive vulnerabilities have shown, even against guys like Christopher Abras, in a fight where he won pretty much every round. He was still getting tagged a fair bit here and there, particularly with those straight punches. So I think straight punches, you know, you're definitely going to catch Callum Smith. If you've got a jab, it's definitely going to be a scoring punch against Callum Smith. And Erik Skoglund's jab is relatively quick, and the right hand behind it's quite quick as well. So yeah, I definitely think Skoglund, if he lets his hands go, is going to find the target. You know, he can definitely make his mark per se. The question is, like, firstly, is his power going to live up? Because at light heavyweight, he wasn't a puncher. And can he take Callum Smith's power? That's the big question here. Because if Skoglund can take Callum Smith's power, like somebody like, if you look at Callum Smith earlier on in his career, like guys like Rebress and Nicholas Sidlocker, if he can take his power like that, I think he can have success. And I think he might make Callum Smith look a little bit ordinary. I'm not saying he's going to win, but I don't think Callum Smith, if Skoglund is durable, I don't think Callum Smith's going to look that great. You know, when every time Callum Smith has fought a durable guy, every time he's done that, he's always won these fights easily in terms of a scorecard. But he looks one-dimensional. When he doesn't blast you out of there, like he did against Rocky Fielding and Hadil Mohammadi, if he doesn't blast you out of there, I think he can look quite workmanlike. You know, once the left hook to the body doesn't work, or once his counter shot on the ropes doesn't work, you know, he kind of goes into almost like a plodding mode. You know, he'll work behind his jab, high guard, look for the body shots, and try and grind you down. He looks one-dimensional at times. So if Skoglund can use that jab, use that right hand behind it, maybe be a bit mobile, he can definitely win rounds against Callum Smith, because I'm not quite as high on Callum Smith as everybody else is. The thing with Skoglund I've noticed though, and I feel this is something that could play into Callum Smith's hands, because one thing Callum Smith does have, and one thing he's very good at, is timing. One thing Skoglund does, and I've noticed this, when he throws his jab or his 1-2, they're slow to come back. You know, he'll throw his jab and he'll throw his right hand behind it, and they're definitely slow to come back, and they're not thrown in like he doesn't throw one and bring one back. He almost kind of like throws one, brings the jab back, but throws the right hand when his jab hand's coming back, if that makes sense. So his jab hand will still be coming back when he's throwing that right hand, and I definitely think Callum Smith can time him with either a right hand or a left hook. He just seems open for those two shots. And like I said, Skoglund is more mobile than Callum Smith, but he's not exactly a mover. So can he do that for any length of time moving against Callum Smith, or will he revert to type and sort of stay upright and try to keep it long? I'm not sure. I think Skoglund will give Callum Smith some problems, but you know, Callum Smith is still the classier guy. Although Skoglund isn't bad at putting his shots together, Callum Smith is a much better combination puncher. I do think at times Callum Smith really varies his shots quite well. He'll work from the body to the head, he'll change levels. When Callum Smith uses a jab, he has got quite an effective one. He's got a long reach, and when he works behind it, he can be quite effective. And also, as I mentioned, Skoglund likes to keep it long, and Callum Smith does have a good high guard. So I'm not sure if Skoglund is creative enough to get past that high guard. I'm not sure, because Callum Smith's going to be the taller, bigger guy. I'm not sure Skoglund's offense is creative enough to really penetrate Callum Smith's defence. Callum Smith is no defensive wizard, like I said, and he is open for jabs. But if he just pops that high guard up and looks for those counter shots, then maybe Skoglund might have trouble landing cleanly on Callum Smith. But I do think Skoglund is better than people give him credit for. He's a little bit awkward too. He's got like a bit of a herky jerky movement to him as well. He's like a stereotypical European boxer with a little bit more movement, a little bit more awkwardness, and a little bit more punch variation. But ultimately, he does still stand very straight up. And there are bad habits there that haven't been exposed yet, because he's fought quite a low level of opposition. You know, for example, like I said, with his jab, or and sometimes he'll back up in straight lines with his chin in the air, things like that. Just basic things that at a higher level they're going to get exposed. And Callum Smith is quite a good counter puncher. I think overall Callum Smith's just a better fighter here, and I make him a big favourite. And I don't really see the upset on here. I could see Skoglund, like I said, making Callum Smith look bad and messing him around, but I just can't see Skoglund winning this fight personally. But what do you guys think? I think Skoglund is better than people give him credit for, but he's not going to win this fight, in my opinion. I will make a official prediction near the time, but I'm feeling strongly for Callum Smith in this fight. Peace.